And that's an interesting thing with Lost in Space. I belong to a Yahoo group of both Zorro and Lost in Space, and I read the name on one of the Lost in Space lists that this gal had a book written by Bear Manor Media. And I mentioned it to Antoinette. She got in touch with this gal got in touch with somebody, and once again, somebody knows somebody, and it works.
See why Kathy and I are friends? We just connect. Something happens. I mean, if she saw that because she keeps up with the Lost in Space site, and then I contacted the publisher because I had heard about that.
Well, and again, what's great about the book is it is very well put together. I mean, because and again, we've had, as Frankie touched on, we've had a number of Bear Manor authors on our program, and they allow authors, the time and space, and length to put together books such as this to really tell the story of a man's life and career from start to finish. I mean, Kathy, I know that you provided a lot of the rare photographs of Guy from your personal collection, not just a guy relaxing offset, with his family, but some of the early we're talking about Jim Garner. I didn't realize that Guy started off as a male model, and there was literally not a magazine in the 40s and 50s where his mug was not on it.
Yeah, Antoinette found actually a lot of those magazines herself. I did a lot of the research of what Guy was doing around the time of Zorro, and I did get some photos and such from his first years as a movie star.
I think a lot of people didn't know he was a model. He was really he was born in New York in 1924. He was of Italian immigrants, and his real name was Armando Catalano. And when he didn't even decide to go into modeling, he was having odd jobs he didn't like, and someone suggested it because of the way he looked. And when he did go in to be a model, his agent suggested a different name so he wouldn't be typecast. He picked an all-American name and always was doing all these ads as a soldier during the wartime, and gosh, he was one of the top models in New York, always working, and that's how he met his wife.
Well, you tell a funny story, speaking of how he got the name. I mean, apparently the name more or less, the name more or less came up on the spot, and he ended up getting a job that he was originally turned down for when he tried to get it under his real name.
That's right, because everybody just got an image. If you said, his agent said, well, I'm sending over Armando Catalano. Oh, no, we want an all-American guy, all-American type for this. And look how he looked. I mean, he couldn't have looked more all-American. So they talked it over, and they thought of some just bland, simple names. And I often wonder if Guy came from, Guy Madison at the time was really popular. Who knows? But they chose Guy Williams, and she called back and said, I've got Guy Williams here. And they said, send him over, and he got the job.
Yeah, one of the fun things is, you mentioned talking to Janice Williams, Guy's wife, but you talked to a lot of the people that he worked with, not only on the Zorro show and Lost in Space, but early on in his career when he was a contract player, like Dennis Weaver, who's someone that Frankie and I admire a lot.
Oh gosh, that was wonderful. Yes, I did. I had a nice long conversation. And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's and again, one of the things that I remember is that early. I mean, because Guy spent the first part of his, I guess, the first 25 years of his life and early career in New York, and then when he moved across country to L.A., there was a little community of young actors struggling to make it, and they used to get together at Dennis Weaver's house at the time and sort of bond on Sundays.
I know, and this is so fun to think of that. Russ Johnson was a friend of his.
The Professor Gilligan's Island, yeah.
Right. He was good friends with Jeffrey Hunter.
Wonderful actor.
Yeah, and
Peter Graves.
Yeah, Peter Gray. Who else was in the yard?
It's always, it's always amazing when I find out, people that used to hang out together. You find out, for example, that Burt Reynolds was best friends with Doug McClure, and they used to spend all their time together. Or, and I always found that interesting. So here you've got Guy Williams and Dennis Weaver hanging out with Russell Johnson, and you can imagine the conversations.
Like what amazed me too, I never would have thought of this, but Strother Martin. Strother Martin was the one who advised Guy on how to play Zorro, how to not take it so seriously and to have fun with it. I mean, who would have thought he and Strother Martin hung out?
Well, that's what's great. Well, Strother Martin, of course, one of the great character actors.
And he was even on Lost in Space.
I'm sorry?
He was even on Lost in Space, one of the
That's right, sure.
Yeah.
What we have here is failure to communicate.
Oh, very good.
Oh, the greatest line. I have one, a Rockford file trivia for both of you. Kathy, how did we discover that somebody was watching the Rockford Files?
So a fan was watching the Rockford Files, and out of the corner of her eye, she thinks she sees Guy, but it's a picture on the back of a book that was used as a prop because supposedly there was an author as a character in this movie or TV show that's killed.
I know Frankie and I are both very familiar with the episode you're talking about.
Did you know it was Guy Williams? It's one of his old shots from Universal International when he and James Garner were both there.
Yeah, it's actually listed in archive footage on his bio, so it is Guy Williams. It's no secret that studios, when they own you, they own you through that period of time, so they could do whatever they wanted. Oh. And so I'm sure even Guy was, who knows, he could have been watching TV one night and said, "Hey, there's my picture," and of course, I'm not going to get paid for this.
Well, of course, and again, I'll, confession, I was not aware. I mean, because it's when you go through the episodes of the show, as I did when I did 30 Years of the Rockford, I mean, you try to you look for anything that might be of interest to the readers and fans of the show, and that was, I mean, I had always tried to figure out, okay, who could that be, and I guess, okay, maybe it was an old photo of Steve Cannell, because I know Steve Cannell liked to do in jokes like that, or I figure maybe it was one of Roy Huggins' proteges at the time. Never was able to figure that out until I talked to you, Antoinette. And it's just when I do 40 Years of the Rockford Files, I will update that book.
I would love to know the story behind that, because we can only speculate that it was some kind of inside joke or something. But
no, you know what it is? It's essentially they need a picture, and they've got it in the archives, and they don't have to pay for it, and someone just pulled it. They probably didn't even think about it. That's essentially all it was. They probably didn't even know, even if it was Guy Williams or not.
Yeah, well, that was my first thought, because it was all filmed over there, and they had the rights to use them. So, but it was really amazing to see it. Everybody was freezing the frame. They taped it and was looking to make sure it was Guy Williams.